Thank you. Let's first of all, I referenced this letter that we had sent to you, and I'd like to know we're requesting a response by June 26th. Will you do that?
Senator, I haven't seen that letter. If it's been received at the agency, it certainly hasn't made its way to me. It sounds like you're still having it signed. I'm happy to review it.
We already sent it. Now, maybe the agency didn't get it to you, and it covers 5 areas. And even if it's a couple areas where you're not going to, could we just get a response by the 26th, not expecting that every question is going to be answered, but it's going to take more time for this or this, just a response.
Not knowing what it says, I commit to you that we will be timely in responding to your letter. What's today, the
I don't know.
We'll get you some response to your letter, and it will be as responsive as we commit.
I have applauded you several times. I've quoted your quote when you say the American people will not trust us to protect their health and their environment if they do not trust the transparency and so forth. And yet this Bob Deneen, of the CEO of the Renewable Fuels Association, made this statement. He wrote in talking about the lack of access to the EPA's modeling, he said, the inaccessibility of these models and the lack of clear, detailed documentation on how the various models and data sets were integrated appear to violate EPA's guidance regarding transparency. Would you commit to allow full access to the assumptions and the inputs that developed the modeling? And do you have any thoughts about why this statement was made?
I don't know the gentleman. I don't want to try to get into his thought processes. What I can commit to you is that that modeling was done at the request of colleagues of yours in the House of Representatives. We were being responsive to their requests, as you're asking me to be responsive to yours, and I'll certainly do that, but I have to respect them giving us input and asking the EPA to provide a service to Congress. That is part of our job and our function, and we're happy to do it.
All right, that sounds good. I wasn't going to ask this question, except the Senator from New Jersey piqued my curiosity on something that I think that would be good to have on the record here. Science is an interesting thing, and it's one that changes from time to time. Just as an example, many of the very top scientists throughout the world, such as Claude Allegra in France and David Bellamy in UK and Nir Shaviv in Israel, who at one time, back during the initial Kyoto years in the late 90s, were very, very strong in saying that anthropogenic gases cause global warming. Those same scientists, them and about 700 other scientists, have now said, no, that we were wrong in the science at that time. That we thought that was true, and it's no longer true. In fact, the interesting thing I saw just last week is Sarkozy appointed Claude Allegra to be the Minister, I believe, of the Environment for France. I'm not sure that's the right title, something like that. And here's a guy that is totally on the skeptic side of the science. I guess what I'd say is we recognize that science, that there are interpretations, science does change, and there are a lot of people who were immediately on one side, that now on the other side, just the recognition that science does change.
The recognition, I recognize that as we get more data, scientists are duty-bound to constantly be reviewing it, and it may or may not change their position on the issue of climate science. Despite the fact that 700 sounds like a large number, the vast majority of scientists who work in the field, the scientific consensus is still that anthropogenic causes are causing our climate to change. So I certainly, and you and I have discussed this before, Senator, recognize the need to keep an open mind and to look at information as it comes in. I am not a climate scientist by training, but I do respect the consensus that's been reached amongst them.
Yes, but as you say, as new data comes in, scientists do change. Lastly, the IRIS process that you're adopting here does overlook some steps that the previous administration was criticized for, such as OMB and others. There have been several people in the scientific community that feel that the EPA is writing the science, reviewing the science, and declaring the science. Would you look at where's that chart? Well, the OMB part is in the post-peer review and several internal EPA steps. Would you look at the chart that was used prior to that and then respond to us in writing for the record which of those steps you are eliminating? Would you do that for us?
I'm happy to do that, and I have looked at that chart in
Yes,
development of the new process.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
I thank the distinguished